Welcome, everybody, to today's episode of Chair's Table. I am Chair. Thank you for taking your seat. I am here to prop you up. At Chair's Table, everyone gets to eat. If you are watching now, like, retweet, share, subscribe. Thank you. With me today, Andy Boyan, sometimes known as Magic, of HYPERLIQUID. Hello, Andy. This is your second seat at the table. Thank you for being here once again.
We're talking points. We're talking points.
Oh,
I'm doing good.
Listen, folks, the points all come to me. That's just how this works. Andy, for those who are unfamiliar with you, if you could tell them who you are and where they can find you and what project it is you are building now.
My name is Andy HYFI, and I am on the Twitter, aka X, and Telegram and Discord as Andy HYFI, ANDYHYFI. And yeah, I've been there for around for a little while, so you can find my profile. You can find the HYPERLIQUID profile. It's at HYPERLIQUID as it's spelled down there on the banner. And yeah, I've been in crypto for a long time. Been building this for quite a while now, and we've been live for what month is it? We're in 7, so 6 months ish. Yeah, of a live, and by live I mean not just on chain and active, but like it's live, like it's moving, it's cooking. Protocol on HYPERLIQUID. Yeah, that's the it's for the present. But my past, oh dear, my friend.
Well, tell me about your past before we get into the points and the borrowing and the lending and the looping and the earning and the APR. Where were you before all of this crypto phenomena took off?
So, we released points several times in the past month, and but last Thursday or Friday, like our final calculations came out and got distributed. Friday it was. And as people came in, just checking the DMs and the tickets on Discord, a lot of questions around points, people's personal allocations, and why we structured things the way that we had. And then I came to notice so one of the ways that we structured points very intentionally, people weren't seeming to grok. And so I posted this tweet: should I come and talk about points? Would people be interested in that? So here it is. And just wanted to give some insight, not only into how HYPERLIQUID does it, but in points more generally, and like how they work and what they do and how people think about them. Because well, two things of note. One, it's not just HYPERLIQUID that had trouble calculating points. Felix, it just got revealed today, this morning that their points calculations have been wrong for ages, and a couple people found it, and so they're going and doing a recalculation. HyperSwap has done recalculations like 5 or 6 times. They've done a bunch, and Kinetic, that just released a couple of weeks ago, they had missed some pools, and so I've had to redo some points. And so I've been saying points are hard because they're hard to deploy and do it correctly, especially on a new chain like Hyper EVM. But then, so I wanted to come bring context about the ecosystem, but then also, oh yeah, my past life, my doxed life, my former career, I was a professor of communication and media effects. So I got my PhD in communication, in specifically in social science, and my focus, my dissertation, and like my entire research focus, and all the publishing that I've done has been in video games and game mechanics in particular. So points are like this crucial part of like how games have been made, and I've been studying gaming since I was 8 years old with Ataris and Nintendos, and Oregon Trail, but then also professionally I did that for a lot of years. And so I put this in the tweet, but I was the chair of my department by the time I left. I had tenure. I'm like well published. I look like a young degen who hangs out and wears crypto shirts, and I do. But I've had a fair amount of experience. That's actually what led me to crypto. Was I was taking a break of studying video games and interested in other media systems and technology systems that had sort of new structures, new ways that people interacted with them. And the capital formation in crypto, and particularly on Ethereum and ICOs, in fact, ICOs are really, really fascinating to me and still are. That's kind of what dragged me into this whole mess. And so I really enjoyed taking sort of a systemic thinking about mechanics of technical systems and seeing how they apply to crypto, in particular incentive systems. And when the points meta started a couple of years ago, I was like, yo, this is I know this stuff. Like, what are we doing over here? So I wanted just to come and talk about that and like give my thoughts, overview of points and why we selected things the way that we did, and just other observations, answer questions. Like, I'm happy to have this be a casual conversation too.
Yeah, there certainly is, even the word itself has a lot of energy behind it now, as we've progressed to this point in the ecosystem where points equal potential value to people, but real value, and it might be even. Well, no, I think it's very relevant to this conversation in that the gap used to be wider between gamers and crypto games. Like very recently, over the past week or so, as games are being taken down from Steam, I think
Mm-hmm.
the relevance there, that conversation will hit different to a lot of gamers. If you had your favorite, now maybe that game deserves to be taken down or whatever morally, let's not get into it. But the fact that payment processors are blocking payments to games, we're probably going to see a lot of gamers move into crypto. So what is relevant is that the psychology of points, if anything within crypto, is amplified. It's like,
Yes.
there are certainly games that you play for points that end up having prize pools or tournaments. So those, each point has value there, potential monetary value. But in crypto land, every point really does carry value with it, and the gaining or losing of it impacts people. And I think we see that across a lot of projects. People's expectations aren't always met, or sometimes they're exceeded. Hyperliquid.
So
So yeah.
so let's get into this, right? So why do people play games? Do you know why people play games?
Maybe one reason is the dopamine release effect that it has. That there's a predictable
So
pattern of
there's this
enjoyment.
massive research field about why do people play games, and it goes back to ludology, like studies of why people play checkers or sports or whatever it is, and it's this long established field since the 1800s, and it translates into video games as well. And there's six major motivations for gaming, and I don't know if I can remember them all off the top of my head, but I'll try. Fantasy and escapism, to live in another world, right? Like I'm just going to role play and do something else. Small contingent of gamers, but a significant contingent of gamers. Um, just pure arousal, like you said. Like something gives me a dopamine hit, and I just need to feel something, right? Like just that feeling of whatever it happens to be. And that one's like really interesting because you can give people like meaningful emotional experiences too. You know, when Aerith dies in Final Fantasy VII, right? Like all these sort of epic gaming moments. There's another one I can't remember. Social interaction. Like people just play games to have friends and interact with people socially. So I grew up on the couch, you know, with my brother, and we would just, you know, play 2-player mode, and that was part of it. Oh, hang on, nope, not answering.
They want to know where their
Uh,
points are.
they want to know, right? People are coming. Stop talking about video games. But two of the major ones, I can't remember the sixth one now. It's escaping me because I got distracted. But the two main reasons people play are related to each other. They're competition. People really like seek competition and like want to be pushed themselves and push others at a skill level commensurate to their own. But the main motivation, the reason most people play games is to seek a challenge. And so like there's this huge overarching category of people who try to min max a game and like find the mechanical precision to do the possible best it is, and to like have that like experience of like finding a peak experience because you've mastered a system. Like that's the main reason people play games. And now a lot of those reasons can combine together, is what the research find, and that's just obvious. I like to live in a fantasy world and pretend to be a wizard, but I also want to get my timing perfect, my hitbox is perfect, my stats maxed as much as I can given the time I've put in. And that challenge is really interesting because if you think about min-maxing, that's what point system in crypto is here's this incentive system, and we're giving you something to receive. If you do it perfectly, you will be on top of the leaderboards. And like we have a leaderboard, and all these projects have leaderboards. Now, what's really interesting here is there are people who are professional gamers who min-max better than anybody else, and they're esports masters, and they're streamers, and they're amazing, and their Twitch speed is crazy, right? They got gear for it, and they will dust you. Like, I don't know if you've ever played against pro gamers, but like it's not even fun to play against these guys, right? If you take that same example and move that over to crypto and points, there are professional hedge fund, high frequency trader autists who are out there figuring out the best system for points, and they have millions of dollars in capital to allocate and retrieve those points. So those are some of the parallels that I see, and where like we actually I think crypto aligns more with gaming in that aspect rather than like dopamine hits and just trying to accomplish something to get to the next level. I'm actually pretty skeptical of gaming in crypto. Like as a payment rails, maybe like that's fine. But like NFTs buried in games, we built one and it, didn't quite get traction. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But like, I'm more skeptical of that rather than this sort of min-maxing challenge, sort of seeking activity that we see pervasive in both domains.
It's almost like it's going back to MUDs or like earlier, or just early video games in general, where it's like it's maybe less dopamine, or the dopamine is coming from the success or failure of the min-maxing strategy.
Overcoming a challenge like that ping, right? Oh, I did it right. And like there's a protocol on Hyperliquid I'm providing LP for, and I'm like, I've watched myself rise up the leaderboards, and as I rose up, because I have a pretty good strategy that I think is great for me, like financially I'm very comfortable with it, the risk model. But then also it's been like netting me great gains on the points leaderboard as well as in LP fees. And so all of a sudden I'm like, well, how could I tune this up? And so I got an NFT that gives me a little boost, and I like make sure I did this and that. And I do those things because now I'm in that gaming mindset and that gaming mode mindset where like all I need is a couple more, and then I enter a new class of rankings or whatever it is.
We have a question in the chat that you can drop your questions into wherever you're watching, folks. Kurt asks, as an ex-pro gamer, I'm assuming, is this why I like HYPERLIQUID so much?
Yeah, very, very possibly. So I'm going to take a step back and look broadly at points across crypto. And it's not like they're all different is the thing. Like this is one of the points of confusion I think people have when they're not sure why they got points or lost points or all this is everybody has a different metric for what they award points for, what the total amount of points for, how much is allocated per week, how long these are going to run, what they're for, what percentage of the points ends up resulting in something later. And they all have something different, which is hard for people to navigate because like when you show up, it's nice to open a page, check your points, and you have a million. Yay! Like I have a million. But that's just not the reality for a lot of these point systems, not ours. We give out a million per week, and so if we have 20,000 people participating in a million per week, nobody's getting a million points, right? Like it's just it doesn't happen that way. And so that makes it challenging to kind of explain. Now, as to Kurt's question, is that why you like HYPERLIQUID so much? We we outline most of the mechanics that get you points, but we do not outline all of them. We give feedback weekly on like here's what your score is based on the current points meta. And like we have a new meta every week and we add markets and take away markets and add, multipliers to various places, but we don't keep like this long historical record that you can go back and check. And now that's intentional. That's intentional design is like, I don't want a min maxer to just come in and farm points better than anybody else. We design our point system to be not quite as gamey. Like there are some elements of it that we actually intentionally remove min maxing capability for. So you've got to do a little bit of creativity and exploring to min max if you're going to do that.
Very interesting. Do you think? I wonder if anyone has figured that out. Is this an alpha drop? Are those that are going hard on the HYPERLIQUID points just learning for the first time that there are elements they were unaware of that they can be using?
So, one of the questions I get in Discord a lot is people will say, I have $10,000 in volume. Can I share my screen?
Absolutely.
All right, hold on. How do I do this? Share screen. I'm going to do a tab and I'm going to do, yeah, here we go. This is a demo wallet that I've used before on HYPERLIQUID. Is it showing?
It is now.
Okay, so here's my demo wallet and I've got 12 points. And you look at 12 points and you're like, that's nothing. Like I have a million points somewhere else. But 12 points is actually not bad considering where I've gotten it and how I've gotten it. So one of the things to go look at is on your dashboard, you have activity history. And look, I got 10,000 in total volume right there. Ooh, 7 cents in liquidations, almost 8 cents. Dang, I'm wrecked. I got that because I withdrew before I repaid on something where I had a tiny bit of in there. And you can scroll down and see. Here's all the. Oh, here's my liquidated. Oh, I got 2 buddy liquidated there. Look at that. Oh, poor
Oh
buddy.
no! Can you zoom in maybe 1 or 2? There it is. Up, a little back now. Just a touch back now. There it is. That's good.
There we go. But this is a nice little feed here, right? It kind of tells you your activity history. But people will come in and they will show me this and say, "Look, man, I got 10,000 in volume. That's a lot of money. $10,000 is a lot of money." But HYPERLIQUID points are not interested in volume. Okay, if you look at a DEX, if you look at like swap volume, a lot of DEXs reward you. I think Project X is doing this. Some of the new ones, Hybra, they reward you for swap volume. That's not interesting to a lending protocol. We don't care about your volume as much because this is just like how much has gone in and out of markets. So look, 0.038 CME. That's like, I don't even know what that is. Like it's a third of a hundredth of 3,000. So that's 1,000 and then 100. That's like $10, right? So, but if I do $10 here, now I'm withdrawing, all of a sudden that's 40 added to my volume. And I can do that again and again and again, deposit, withdraw, borrow, repay, and get up to this volume number. But that doesn't matter. Like HYPERLIQUID doesn't benefit from that at all. The community doesn't benefit from that at all. You don't benefit from that at all. So we don't care about this volume number. Some of these volume numbers are insanely large. Like I've seen crazy large ones. But that's not what's important. What's important to HYPERLIQUID and the way that we design the system is, do you add value to the protocol? So another one, for example, is if you go look at like pooled markets. No, not this. Hold on. we'll show our points right down here, right? Like if you supply stake type, there's 0 points given for stake type. If we gave points for stake type, do you know how much stake type we'd get? An
All of
insane amount. Our TVL would just totally accelerate. But stake type doesn't actually do anything for us. It's good collateral. It's great collateral. And people who want to come and deposit stake type, they go and they borrow hype. Most likely, that's what most people do. Is they're doing this looping trade. They borrow the hype, they go stake more hype, and then they deposit it again. So adding these points modifiers onto these deposit assets don't do much for us except for accelerate. Here's another one, Ethereum. We have a cap on Ethereum and it's almost always filled. And so right now I think there's 0.4, so like 400 room for 400 ETH left in here. We just opened it and it's slowly ticking up. But we don't have deposit points on that because there's no reason for us to incentivize that. People don't want to sell their ETH. They want to put it in the pool and then borrow against it. And so those are already natural incentives. We don't need to do that. Now, on the other hand, we'll give points for borrowing ETH. And the reason for that is, one, borrowing provides the protocol revenue. If we get revenue, we can invest that into growth and expand the market and build incentives that are sustainable over time. So that's valuable to the protocol. Also, if you borrow, what are you going to do with that ETH that you borrowed? Well, you're probably going to go LP it somewhere. And if you're LPing, then you're providing more liquidity to the ecosystem, making liquidations smoother for every lending protocol and every purpose protocol and all that sort of thing. So that's our general philosophy is we take a look at markets and we say, like, what do we need to accomplish? Let's put points there. So for example, last week, there was a hype shortage. There's still a hype shortage, 6.75% to borrow hype. And so we've increased this multiplier to 7x, and we've done that very transparently. We're trying to tell everybody Thursday, here's the point changes. Friday, they go into effect. And then that lasts for a week unless we change them. Or if we change them, it'll last for a week, and we'll only do that on that schedule. It's taken us a little while to get there, but that's been the intent. But
So
we
if
didn't
I
jack this
understand
up to
correctly,
10x. Go ahead.
so if I understand correctly, points are redistributed, or the amount of the multipliers are redistributed on a weekly basis based on what is healthiest for the platform, the ecosystem.
Exactly. And we have a risk team that we work with to look at every one of these markets. And just going back to pooled, like Solana is a great example. Everyone's asking, can we increase the SOL cap? Can we lend more? And I'm like asking the risk team, can we open up the SOL caps? And they're like, there's not enough liquidity on chain. That's a market that we need to keep constrained for now. But like same thing. Like, I know SOL whales who are ready to ape in as soon as we open this up, but we're not opening it up because that's too risky. But we can use the points to direct a lot of those. And so 7x on USDT 0. We need it. Look, it's 35%. We need supply, baby. So we put it up there. People are in the Telegram asking, please provide USDT 0. We need it. We get word there's going to be more coming soon. But
just to focus on the SOL for a moment. So the reason that the USOL is not points incentivized at the moment is because it is too risky, or it is 2x. I see it.
Yeah, we have SOL incentivized. And the reason for that is we want people to bring more SOL on chain. Like we just want people to start migrating and realize that if they migrate over, there are going to be opportunities here to do that. So that one is up, but we've also got it 2x on borrow so that people take it out of the market and look, they're almost maxing out their LTV, right? If you look at the LTV, those numbers line up so that they can go and LP that elsewhere as well.
And LTV for me is liquidity total. What does that mean? LTV?
Lend total value. So it's like how much you're allowed to borrow based on how much you're allowed to borrow based on how much you've deposited. So 20%. It's pretty low for USOL. Oh, it's in isolation. Oh no, it's supply cap is reached. That's what that one is.
And so if people have SOL on Solana, and that's USOL, so it's the unit protocol that people would use to migrate their Solanis to Hyper EVM, where they can deposit it on Hyperliquid to earn points and utilize it further in whatever DeFi mechanics
Whatever
feel
DeFi. There's a bunch of
comfortable.
stuff. Most of them are AMM at the moment, but you can also you can sell it and trade against it, or if you manage to get into one of the markets here, you can borrow against it. So you can deposit it as collateral and then borrow stable coins or hype or whatever it is that you want to go short on.
Do you anticipate this might be too Solana focused, but do you anticipate like what are the LSVs or LRVs, the liquid restake tokens, like those flavor of tokens eventually making their way to Hyperliquid and HYPERLIQUID specifically, like the yield earning or yield bearing Solana flavored there's a clear protocols doing a lot of that stuff now.
Yeah, well, I mean that's what K-Hype and Staked Hype are fundamentally.
Mhm.
Is they're just a liquid staking token. In our isolated markets, we have M-Hype that does the same thing. And then where's the other one? CM-ETH. It's Mantle
Mhm.
ETH, cooked
Mm.
Mantle ETH. And so that's ETH that's on Mantle that is deposited into the M-ETH protocol that you can use as collateral on Hyperliquid to borrow ETH. And then people are going and swapping that ETH for more CM-ETH. And you're getting leverage on your staking yield here. Plus, there powder points plus R points for borrowing. Or this one is for lending ETH. You get points for lending ETH on this one. That one's just about maxed out too. I think the utilization rate is really high. So we need more ETH. We need more everything. Like
Mm.
that just kind of goes without saying. We need all assets right now. Check this one out. USDHL, the lending rate right now, 62%. Crazy. It's a stable coin.
So people are minting USDHL,
Yeah.
lending it, earning yield on that,
Yep. What's crazy is
and
people are paying 70% right now. We need more USDHL. Give these borrowers a break. Go make money.
interesting.
Anyways, yeah. To the points specifically, a lot of users, especially early users in crypto, really look at points as like airdrop farming, and we understand that, right? Like that is where a lot of protocols go to grow is points, and it is a piece of this, right? It's like we do want to have growth, and so we can allocate points before there's any token or any understanding of what that might be. Oh, sorry, I got to move back a little bit.
Just
Tell
a
me when
touch.
I'm in camera.
I think that's good there.
There we go. Yeah, perfect. And so we do understand that, but that is it's an unsophisticated way of using incentives. Incentives direct behavior. And so by having points in people's psychology of points and that they can acquire things for engaging in desired behavior, the behavior that we want isn't just pure marketing schlop. Like TVL and deposits, that's great. We need those, but we don't need them for marketing. We need them because people want to borrow them. So my goal in growth is not to jack up my TVL metrics. My goal in growth is to cultivate markets that have robust, healthy activity, and like a strong borrowing base and strong collateral base. That's important for us for like long-term growth is to have healthy markets.
Makes sense. And the reason, so like you said, you're not incentivizing swap volume. Like I imagine the way or the reason people do incentivize swap volume is like those particular platforms are generating revenue from that, but that is not
Right.
the revenue generator for HYPERLIQUID. So it's not about how much
Yeah.
activity, but rather the quality of your activity.
Well, it's quality on a DEX, right? Every time I make a swap on a DEX, you pay a fee. And that fee, that's revenue for them. And so if you've got $100 million in swap volume and you're taking 1%, I think that's high right now, but like you're taking 1%, that's $1 million. And if you do that in a month, you're eating. Like that's great. That's great for a DEX to subsidize their swap volume to get fees if they subsidize it with points or even token incentives, right? Like whatever that metric happens to be, that makes a lot of sense for a DEX. For a lending protocol, it is very different. It depends on what you're trying to achieve, and different platforms are trying to achieve different things, right? You need TVL, you need some of that like headline marketing metrics. That's just part of the deal in ex Twitter based marketing and all that, because people look at TVL and they think that's a measure of success, which to some degree it is. But people will direct incentives towards what they care about.
What have you seen in terms of the reaction and the adaptiveness, that's not a word, of the HYFI community or the HYPERLIQUID users? How has the response been? I think certainly there's always energy that's generated from the points, but in terms of psychology and reception, how has it gone, and have any adjustments been made as a result?
Yeah. Well, there's three main things that I've noticed. Most people are pretty happy, and the reason is they got some points, and it generally makes sense why they got the points. If you deposited a pool with a huge multiplier and you got more points, it kind of shows you week by week. You can kind of game out in your head like, oh yeah, I deposited there that week and that got a boost. So most of the users are quite pleased. The place where people are having concerns or confusion is they have not quite understood how the multipliers affect points distribution week to week. And so I do think that there is a fair amount of confusion there. If you're in a 1x pool, right? If you're borrowing hype, you're getting 1x points and you deposit, I don't know, $10,000 worth of hype. Hell yeah. Right. You're getting 1x points on that. Whatever our point system is for allocating to that $10,000 worth of hype or however much it's worth, it's getting a 1x multiplier. And so people will see that and say like, okay, well, I got this. My friend also deposited $10,000 worth, but they got way more than me. Well, if they deposit into the 7x pool, right? Maybe it's not the borrow, but if they deposit into the 7x pool, that's a massive multiplier. And our points weekly, we give out 1 million capped, which means whatever your score is that's been affected by this multiplier, it all gets divided up into all of those different accounts that have 1 million. And so if you're somebody who's depositing to some of these 10x pools, let me scroll down. We still have 10x LP, I think.
Oh boy.
Oh,
So it's LP with some pair somewhere. Take those LPTs, deposit them on HYPERLIQUID, 10x multiply.
You don't even have to deposit the LPTs. If you're an LP,
just hold them
in HyperSwap for USDXL and Hype, you're getting 10x multiplier. So if you've got $10,000 in that, well, that's a 10x multiplier. Now you're getting $100,000 worth. And then when that gets divided up into a much smaller pool, because there's a lot more than $1 million of value worth in this whole system. And so think about billions in volume and flows and LP and borrow and lend on both sides. Like there's a tremendous amount of value that's moving around that gets compressed down into 1 million. And so when you look at your points and you're like, man, I got 1 point. What happened? I thought I deposited $1,000. That's real. But
how can someone mess up so bad? No, I'm just kidding.
But I look at those and I look at these activity pages and it's people who they deposit and they sit. And that's a fine way to earn passive points. And it's small yield. And that's fine. If you borrow and you start adding risk on, it's more to manage. It's more risk. You're taking on, liquidation risk, all this sort of stuff. So when we see these different activities in lower multiplier pools, that makes sense to us. Like I look at these 12 points that I got for this account right here, and 12 points doesn't sound like a lot, but look, I had no activity, right? I had 1 point's worth of activity in Epoch 21. That's when we started to have like massive multipliers on some of these other pools. And so to have this actually makes sense. It's, maybe a little demoralizing to look at one, but we could have just added a 0 instead of 1 million, 10 million, and I'd have 10, right? That's unit bias. Like it's just, we had to pick a number. We picked that number. A couple of these pools have a little more.
So the obvious fact is that as people are become more aware of HYPERLIQUID and utilize it more, that everyone's points, regardless of where you stand in the rankings, will go down as there are more participants. The spread will be wider, and everyone will get less points unless you're just outperforming the growth.
It's called dilution, and it's just financial reality. There is dilution. As you take a slice of ownership of a discrete pie, and other people take more, right? Like it's based on percentages. It's pro rata distribution. And so that's how, equity, venture capital equity is distributed. It's always a worry about dilution. How much of your ownership is still left? And that is how this point system works. The reason is we are incentivizing active management. And so if you want to stay on top of those leaderboards, you got to bring capital, and you got to put it where we want it. And we want it places to incentivize active markets and healthy markets. And so if you deposit HYPE and let it sit, we need that. And it was lower for a little while, and now we've increased the multiplier on that. But that's just one thing. You could deposit HYPE and let it sit, and you're getting a 7x on that. And then you go and borrow stable coins and go put those in the market. Well, yeah, now you're accelerating your multiplier by quite a bit, because now you're in two markets at once. And those really do stack a lot in the system, because it is compressed by this 1 million a week. Now, add on top of that increasing TVL. People come in and they drop, this dude over the weekend dropped 30 Bitcoin in one transaction in a deposit. Okay. Yes. Thank you very much. Those notifications come through and we're like, yo, let's go. But I don't have that. And so that is right impacting my position. And so I would go and look and see, like, okay, how can I maximize my position today? And that's not for everybody, and that's okay. But so far, what we've seen on the activity, when we take a look at people's activity, it tracks. Everybody's points take a big hit the week that we added 10x multipliers on things, because those multipliers took a disproportionate amount of the points distribution according to the market demands, right? Like that's what we need. We needed to incentivize liquidity over there.
Can you, I don't want to put you too much on the spot. Can you give maybe an example or a metaphor for how, what might people, you alluded to, not everything is explicitly documented in on purpose, for how to, how to maximize or how to min-max most efficiently. And without spilling, and if it's not possible to, please don't, but without spilling too much, can you give like an example of what type of activity might be sort of that hidden activity, or that, yeah, I guess
so it's not hidden
activity.
Everything that we provide is the information. Everybody has the same information, and it's all the information you need. But for example, like a point strategy here of depositing HYPE gets you 7x. Borrowing USDXL against that HYPE gets you now 5x on that USDXL. Taking that USDXL with some of your leftover HYPE and I'm sorry, where was I? And going to LP. Let's go look at points. Going to LP on the USDXL HYPE Hybrid market nets you a 10x. Okay, so now all of a sudden we've got a 7x plus a 5x plus a 10x. I just mapped that out for you guys. All that information is here, but I don't know exactly like what combination and ratio of stuff is the optimal effect. And I'm not going to tell you what those are, because I don't know. And we don't want to lay that map out. We want to create a variety of possible outcomes so that we get diverse assets and diverse liquidity across the market on the ecosystem. And that's for everyone else to figure out. Maybe, you didn't get in early to HyperSwap or Kitten Swap, and so you're like, man, I don't want to farm those. Oh, well, and that's Hybrid. Now you have another avenue to go that's a newer one. Or you're like, nope, I only trust HyperSwap. They, have the most liquidity on chain right now. That's where I want to go. So we kind of let you choose your own adventure on some of these, and we don't know exactly what the largest are. Or like our partner providers, right? They're providing points on some of these things as well. That's for each individual to speculate. If you want to speculate on mHype drops or CMETH powder or stake loop loops or the hyperwave, I think they're drips. Yeah, we got drops and drips. Here, that's
sounds like a fun weekend.
Hyperwave drops and drips. That's not for us to map out.
Monday
that is for communities and individuals to map out their risk tolerance too. If you're LPing a stable coin against HYPE, that there's a risk right there, right? Like you've got to be aware of those. So those are the things that we kind of let people figure out, and we don't always know how that's going to net out.
That makes sense. And so that would be a cool community tool, would be if based on the current market conditions and the point multipliers and the percentages for lending and borrowing in real time, what is the optimized route? Of course, you can't, unless you're programmatically approaching it, can't be in that optimized route. And then who that does have that knowledge is incentivized to share it with the people. Well, I would say a godly person, a man of merit or woman.
Right? It's tough because, and I actually know a couple of DeFi shops. They got their start by doing educational content and showing people routes. This
And
is
they
on
stop.
They stopped because they realized they're just like giving away their alpha, and they just started farming it and made way more money. And they're like, all right, well, I guess I'm a private, liquid fund now. And that happened, and they've done really well, actually. As a side note, that the rise of DeFi curators and vaults, that's what that is. It's a way for them to monetize that in a route where you can deposit and you don't have to manage it yourself. And that rise has been amazing for Ethereum and Base and places like where Morpho is and Euler as well. And vaults are starting to pick up traction on HyperEVM, and I anticipate we will see many more in the coming months. Vault strategies.
Vaults are a product that basically execute what I described, with the user not having the burden of like that the burden is offloaded to the however they're managing it on that platform.
Yeah, exactly. There's a curator usually who runs that, again, the system, whatever it is.
No pressure on them.
Well, so that
talk about psychology.
It changes the game a little bit. Like, where do you want to deposit? Is it somebody who has experience doing this? Is it a newer player that wants to take a different thing? How do you build up?
Who is your curator?
Market?
I want to know everything about your curator starting at birth. First question: why did your parents decide to give you a birth certificate? No, that's very interesting. I saw I think a mutual friend of ours posted. They've been playing economy games since they were a young lad, and so the emergence of DeFi strategies is very familiar to them, coming from a game economy background. And there are those folks out there talking about the crossover between games and crypto. It's exactly as you said. It's the same min-max philosophy that you can apply to something that is maybe a little bit more interesting for you as an adult.
Well, I don't know if this is the same friend. I don't know if it's the same friend we're talking about, but a number of my friends, including a mutual friend of ours, have cited RuneScape as instrumental in their understanding of crypto economies, because it's a decentralized marketplace and you're negotiating and supply demand and working on that. Other people have mentioned the World of Warcraft auction house and like supply and demand and farming, and like how do you maximize for that sort of thing. And those are absolutely like these min-maxing strategies that are not the only game people play. But when it comes to points, right, people are thinking about these. Some people are thinking about min-maxing. I'm not. So I think there's actually quite a few users, DeFi users, crypto users, who we like points and we like some upside at some point, but that's not the reason I'm using a protocol. I have funds. I have Bitcoin, and I have my Bitcoin deposited in HYPERLIQUID so that I can do more stuff with it, and I can borrow against it and then provide liquidity over DeFi without losing my exposure to Bitcoin. Like that's the reason I'm using it. Points, great. And I'll get the points. And if there's other incentives after that, like awesome, but that's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it for these other reasons to earn. Like the yield is more important to me. I can go and harvest on my LP positions, and that's great. That's why I'm there. Points, awesome. Like that's a bonus for me. I just flipped over to the leaderboard, because the other thing people look at is this leaderboard and they see like 3 million points. Like, what whale is this? This is absolute nonsense. I have 12. Get out of here at 3 million points. That's Loop Type. So what Loop Type does is they take deposits, and I can't remember what their TVL is right now, but it's like 40 million or something. And they take their deposits in Hype and they stake it in Kinetic or Stake Type. And then they use that Stake Type and deposit it here at Hypurr.fi. And then they borrow Hype against it. And then they do that again. And they stake and they deposit and then they borrow Hype. That's called looping. And so they have this massive, massive war chest that for a long time had outsized points because that was our main sort of product market fit, like product that we were pushing is leverage looping, and we still are love it when people do that. But we realized a couple months ago there's going to be an outsized points distribution for loopers, and they're going to get points anyway. Like they're going to do fine. And so we nerfed that loop pretty hard on points. Still, early in EVM lifecycle, loop type was the primary farmer. And in these top five, Hyperbeat is in here somewhere, and Hyperdrive or Harmonix, one of them. Somebody else, some other like Vault type projects are in here. What's interesting about loop type and Hyperbeat is they're not collecting and keeping those points. They're redistributing those points. So if you look at this 3,400,000, that's not going to a whale. That's going to a variety of people who are participating in the loop type market, who are then via loop type participating in that looping trade.
So there's a path to, like, via those vault products to be earning these points and participating in like a more passive way. And is it just hype or yeah, that's interesting. Those vault products are an interesting thing indeed.
Well, Volantis is the other one. So Volantis is this awesome AMM, and their main pair is hype and stake type, and they're the like deepest, most liquid market for hype and stake type. If you want to swap between those, which we need a really deep market for, but the reason they're more efficient is they have a tight range on a lot of liquidity, and then the tail liquidity, like they have more that's not in use. It doesn't need to be active all the time. You don't need $100 million ready to swap right now. So they take a bunch of that excess capital and they go and they do the looping trade. They deposit it and they lend it. And then they can withdraw and use it in their AMM as needed. Like it's a really cool model because it generates more yield, and that yield gets paid out to LPers on top of swap yield. And so like that's a really novel mechanism, but they're not taking the points. They're one of these as well. And we're going to label these at some point. We just got to find time to do it. Every little front end tweak is another little thing. But that's another piece of this is there's protocols using this on behalf of other users, and those will also get distributed. We're working on that.
Anything coming down the pike in the last day? I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks since our last chat. Anything in the next 2 or 3 users can get excited about?
Yes.
Any information for them?
No.
Haha.
I'm very
tried,
busy.
Folks. I tried.
So for a couple of months, we've been saying everybody's coming, and you kind of wait and you see like, okay, sure, is this Hyperliquid? Is this EVM thing? The whole ecosystem. Is this just the next hotness? And there are all of us building here are like, just you wait. Okay, and then you get impatient and you go farm whatever else you're farming, and then Phantom comes, and the revenue that Phantom's making doing perps in wallet is bonkers. And they're just using the Hyperliquid order book, and they're making money. Like it's crazy what they're doing. And so we point to this and say, everybody is coming. Look, it just takes a little while to deploy and get it figured out just right. And especially because of the business sense of Hyper EVM, there's no grants from the core team. Like you don't start with $50 million. Nobody does, or 500,000 or anything. Like you start with, here's the docs. Good luck. And so it's taken teams quite a while to figure out, oh, this opportunity is real. We do need to come. However, we've been saying that for now several months. And this week and next week, you're going to start to see a lot more examples of that.
I think conservatively, any team, even a sizable team, it would take a few months to implement things correctly and test them, especially if you're anticipating millions and millions and millions of dollars to be handled by whatever implementation you're building. So
and the chain is still clunky. Like the chain is still clunky. To be fair, testnet is not well supported, and it's a real hassle. So like I can't send assets on EVM testnet because there's no way to verify the contracts on any of the explorers, and so Rabby won't see the testnet assets, and so like it's things like that just like, okay, now you're going to spend a week figuring out how to send a couple of meme coins on testnet to somebody just to test out contracts, and so those are the things. And there's tons of those things, right? There's these little intricacies that affect how teams deploy technology, how they come with marketing, how they supply and seed liquidity. Like, how do you start those incentives in general? So it does take time in general. Now, that said, enough teams are figuring out like, oh no, there's something real happening here. This is finance. It's the money chain where people want to do finance, and they're coming and they're making the time. They're taking the effort, and you'll start to see that this week. I'm certain. So I'm excited because they're working with HYPERLIQUID, and so we get to announce cool stuff and do cool things.
Well, there it is. Hypurr.fi, HYPURR.fi is the site. At Andy HYFI is Dr. HYFI here. Folks, if you are watching, wherever you're watching, please like, share, subscribe, retweet. I appreciate it.
Do we have any cues? Are we doing good? Beef's watching.
Say it again.
Do we have any questions? Are people doing good? I don't see people.
I think people are good. Folks, if you do have, we have 167 now live viewers total. Folks, if you do have any questions, drop them in the chat wherever you.
I'm gonna put out a little bit of a plug too. If you're having trouble sorting out why your points distribution is the way it is, Discord. Go to the main HYPERLIQUID app and find the little Discord icon here. I'll show it to you to make sure you have the official Discord. It is down below on the right down here. It did not open with me, but join there and you can open a ticket. There's an official channel called Open a Ticket. And mods and I will take a look at your activity. We'll try to sort out for you and explain. We've addressed probably close to 100 tickets so far since Friday, and all of them so far have been explained by multipliers in different places. So right now, the points distribution looks accurate to us. If you're confused and certain and you want us to take a look, we will do so. Be aware that the backlog is significant, and so we're working through and we're trying to talk to everybody. If you've got 1 point, if you've got 1,000 points, if you got 1,000,000 points, we'll do our best to do that. We got a couple of awesome mods in there supporting as well. Thank you, Kurt and Freak. But also beware of scams. If you ask a question in any of our channels, somebody will DM you and they're a scammer. So we never DM you. The only way I will talk to you is like in the official channel or in the Open a Ticket that are restricted to the mods. So please be careful with those. But feel free, open a ticket, have those conversations.
I see one question in the Telegram. Can someone provide USDT0 FFS?
Oh, someone will provide it.
If there is a need, the need will be filled. It's just the order of things. That's just how nature works.
We've got points up now, and points are driving activity because we want to establish strong behaviors. But if you look at these pooled markets, you look at the demand, people are paying 35% almost to borrow Tether, a stablecoin. People are paying 72% to borrow USDHL. People are paying 20% to borrow last USDXL. If you want that to go down, USDXL works a little different, but if you want that to go down, you need to buy it up off the market and drive the price up. That'll drive the rates down. That's how that one works. But right now, what we're seeing is a lot of demand to farm on Hyper EVM. And so we're trying to show people, here's the APYs, here's the opportunity. Come, bring your funds. There's stuff to do.
Nice. Well, everyone is coming. You can come too if you want to.
All right. I will talk about token. But what I will say is, so HYPERLIQUID has purchased a ticker on Hyperliquid Core. We did back in December. It is the HYFI token. But there are no plans. We have no drafts. We have no cemented plan for when a TGE all the utility functions, anything like that distribution. And we have done that very deliberately because we are a US based company. We're trying to be compliant and thoughtful. And as regulations kind of open up and provide a clearer road, we want to have the optionality to have a token that makes sense when it makes sense and is structured in the way it makes sense. And so we're not rushing into anything with that. So I know AB, you're not going to like that. My big, we got a big DeFi user on Hyperliquid right here. But for us, that is a longer term strategic play that is more powerful and will bring more value long term to HYPERLIQUID and the network of products that are around HYPERLIQUID. Because remember, we're not just a lending protocol. Like the lending protocol is the base so that we can build the stuff we really want to build. We need to have this foundation of debt that works, that has active markets that are very strong, that liquidate, properly and have good capital flows, so that we can build out some other products. And so when we think about those products, which we haven't all announced publicly, we need to take those into consideration as well, and how that makes sense from any future token idea whatsoever. So yeah, there's the terrible news for you when TGEers is we don't know. We're not talking about it.
You'll just have to stay tuned to find out. Well, I'll leave the chat open for another minute or so as we wrap up. If you have any final questions, if you have not yet, go and follow Andy at Andy HYFI. The app is Hypurr.fi. It is leveraging the Hyperliquid ecosystem. You can borrow and lend and earn your points and loop your loops and scoop your scoops over there.
To summarize a little bit of the earlier conversation about philosophy of points and psychology around it, I think it is important for if you're gathering points from some protocol or multiple, you should understand the team's philosophy. Why are they allocating points the way they are? And asking that question is a fair question. And the answer for some will be, we want to just incentivize early growth and volume. And that's fine. You know what you're getting into. And now here's the most strategic way to do this is to play their game, if that's what you want to min max for. You ask us, and we are using points to direct people to markets that need attention, right? It's a different than just pure like bootstrapping TVL. Right? That's not what we're interested in as much as building healthy markets. So that would be my takeaway, and that's a little bit of a different perspective. And I don't know exactly how this ties in, but it's a fun gaming psychology data point. Did you ever play Mass Effect, Chair?
No.
So in Mass Effect, you can take like 3 different ethical roads. You can go as the Paragon, which it's kind of like the honorable, choice. You're trying to, be ethical and good. You can be neutral, and I can't remember what that one's called. And then, or you can be a renegade, and you're kind of selfish, and like you have these traditional like anti-hero type qualities. And every choice you make like gives you a point in one direction or the other in general. How would you guess that most people play? Paragon
Renegade,
or Renegade?
probably. I would say Renegade.
And why is that? Why would you guess that?
It allows people to act selfishly without the fear of judgment or the judgment of others. I'm not sure, but there's something about like being able to go rogue without the consequences is attractive, perhaps.
Multiple data sources show that people overwhelmingly, like 70% of people, pick Paragon only, and they do not choose Renegade. And so we did research on this and to try to find out why. And most people, when they play a game with ethical decision making embedded into it, they select a path that most closely aligns with their personal morals. They don't want to mess up the game and go down an evil path if they can't keep it up, because they'll feel bad. But like most people are playing, like they're good. They want to see themselves as the hero. They want to do an honorable thing most of the time. And so they pick the Paragon most often. And it comes to decisions and they think about it. They're like, well, I don't want to wreck my score here. Yeah, I see, both sides, but I got to go this way, because they want to view themselves in this light. as an ethical person, that so their character matches their morals. I was so shocked by this. I thought what you thought. It's like, well, gaming is the perfect sandbox where you can just go and do whatever you want, and there's no consequences. It's a game. But we found, in fact, the opposite. Very significant,
So interesting,
sizable
like
correlation there.
comparing to something like Grand Theft Auto, but I don't have any data personally. Like, we figure like most people go rogue and just do whatever you want to do in the GTA map. So
The mechanics of Grand
yeah.
Theft Auto are for crime. That is the game. And so
Right.
the field is set. And when the field is set for this particular set of mechanics, people follow into the mechanics and they min max and find their own sort of path of the particular activities that they do. But like that is the game. In Tetris, the game is just to get lines and get points, right? And people figure out like mini games around it, but people build their experience within the construct of the game mechanics. And so, right, and I think that's very important. And in a game like Mass Effect, where there's an ethical outcome, people will map to what the game allows. In a game like RuneScape, the game becomes the economics of the game, right? Or in Warcraft or a lot of fantasy sort of role playing games, it's min maxing stats. D&D, people that play tabletop games, is there's this sharp divide between people who min max stats and people who who play for like character development and role playing. And because D&D allows for both of that. In financial games, in DeFi and in points, there's pretty much one game. It's to min max points. And so you're up against these people who are playing a really, really hard game. And the fact of the matter is, you're probably not as good at it as most people. You're not as good at it as AB is. I know I've seen some AB screen shares, and you're not as good as AB is, as some of these people who have done this for a long time. They have the ability to like map out and see those multipliers and gather a bunch of them on multiple protocols too, right? People are borrowing from HYPERLIQUID and then going and lending on Hyperlend. Like we're well aware of that. But people who are doing those sorts of strategies, like there's some serious talent here. So when you see your points and you're not that happy with it, if you've done $10,000 in volume and you're getting, I saw somebody was like got like 1,000 points and they had done 10 grand in volume or something like that, and they were like, man, this doesn't seem like very much. I'm like, bro, you killed it. That's really good. What were you doing? And like somebody in the Telegram chat, I think, and scroll up, but he talked a little bit about what he was doing. I was like, dude, go follow that guy. He's got the key. With a smaller amount of capital, still hitting the multipliers and playing the game really, really well. You can do that.
Yeah, that's a significant percentage. Like it's less than 1%, but it's still a significant percentage given the size. Like you see a $3 million BTC deposit, and you're playing against that with 10K. That is significant. 0.1 is still significant.
One other data point on points. We have Sybil protection in place as well. So points and scoring happens linearly. So if you deposit $10 on one wallet and $10 on another and $10 on another, and you farm it all just farms as $30. And so you're not getting any benefit from that. In fact, you're losing out because of fees that you're paying to the system. The other Sybil protection mechanic that we have is if you are earning for a week under half a point, 0.50, those points are just erased and deposited back into the system. And that's so that we don't have millions and millions of these, tiny ones. Unfortunately, for really small depositors, that does affect your ability to gain points. We had to make a cutoff point somewhere. That's not my favorite thing to do, but it's just, that's a Sybil protection mechanism. But that means for some weeks, like if you got $50 in the protocol and a 10x on K-Hype happens and you're in something else, you're probably just going to get, erased on that instead of allocating 0.0001 points to literally hundreds of thousands of people or wallets rather. That there is that there. So that does explain some of the people who say like, I had funds deposited, but I got nothing. Then I go and look at the activity.
I deposited
like
$3 worth of value and looped it 10 times, and I got 1 point. What?
It's possible, but probably not sustainable.
Yeah.
We have more questions people asking for USDT. Nobody asked me for USDHL, so I don't know where those folks are.
Very interesting. It makes me painfully aware of the lack of personal tooling that I have to be able to map out, or even a mental framework to map out this type of data efficiently. And so, where's AB? I'll probably give you a follow.
Yeah, he's out there. I
I'm
don't know how much alpha he spills on the public timeline, but
AB. If you could just tell us everything you know,
AB's and
uh,
everything.
in a way, in a way that we could digest. Start from the beginning and tell us everything. No, very interesting. I'm keen, and if anyone is listening and wants to reach out, like I understand that part of the psychology and the dynamic of this is that people are incentivized to hold on to valuable information. There is maybe only one thing more valuable than money, and that's karmic value. So just imagine the karmic value you would be depositing for yourself if you were to share some of these tools. And that's just a message to everyone. In that, come on, guys, share us your DeFi, share your DeFi strategies with us. Uh, um, well, Andy, is there anything else that we want to embark to the people, impart to the people, exclaim to the
HYPER.fi
people?
points philosophy, hyper EVM points meta. Oh, the hyper EVM points meta. Um, So I want to apologize to everyone who got excited for points the first time we distributed, and then we had to recalculate, and then the second time we distributed, and then had to recalculate. It caused a lot of confusion. It sucked for us. We hated it. And by the time we got to the third time, we're pretty confident we got it right. We did a lot of work to check as much as we could on this. And we felt pretty bad about that, and still do, right? It's embarrassing. It sucks to have like a public release and then it doesn't go well. We saw Felix recently recalculate, and Kinetic recently recalculate, and Hyperswap has done it a few times, and it points are weird and they're hard. They're not straightforward, and getting them out correctly is not straightforward. And so the meta right now for points on Hyper EVM, we all have to capture it because we know like this is just kind of like how to grab attention and direct people in a very busy and competitive landscape. But as points earners, you should also be aware that like teams are still figuring that out, and you need to ask. You need to go and understand. And you can ask us, like, go into the chats and say, how long will you have points? How long is this season? And I will very clearly tell you there is no date in mind, and that's ambiguous information, and you have to take that and decide for yourself, what does that mean? Could we go 10 years of points weekly and never distribute anything? Yeah, right now we could do that. We probably won't do that, right? That doesn't make any sense, but we don't have a specific date that we've set. Other projects have, and you can go look at those. They have, some have much more clearly defined metrics, some have much more ambiguously than ours even defined metrics. I think that is really important, and to take that into account for everything on Hyper EVM right now, because we're all growing at a pace that is bonkers to all of us. Like Kinetic is like 600 million in value deposited in a week or whatever it is, and so we're all reeling from not only the attention that we're getting, but what something like that does to liquidity on chain. It borks everything up, man. It just like changes the rates for everything. This demand for hype skyrockets, which means there has to be unwinds of DeFi positions, because meanwhile, somehow the price of hype is slowly declining. Like it is a volatile young chain, and not just technology wise, but it is a volatile in terms of liquidity and how it gets to the EVM and where it goes. And so you are taking risk on with all of this, and you should know that, and also have a bit of patience around that, please. We're doing our best because we do want to, allocate points to people so that you get something that fits the mechanics that we have designed and we have talked about designing as clearly as possible. But all these projects like have a little patience.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's ironic because my MC name is Young Volatility.
That's a good one.
Folks, if you're playing the points game, you're playing it along with all sorts of other people. You have a lot of solidarity in what you are feeling. If you are feeling it, there's likely other people that are feeling it as well. And you can at least take solace in that. This is Chair's Table. You have been sitting at Chair's Table. Andy has been at the head of Chair's Table. Thank you for taking your seat. All of you, Everyone gets a seat. It's up to you how much you eat. Follow Andy at Andy HYFI. Go to Hypurr.fi in your browser. Utilize the Hyperliquid ecosystem to your benefit, passively, actively, loopingly. The choice is yours. Thank you very much once again, Andy, for being here. I think we're going to make your heart out nicely.
Yeah, we're gonna make it. I got someone at the door too. My dog's barking, so
perfect.
perfect timing.
All right. Well, that has been Andy HYFI. Thank you very much, Andy. I'll take you off so you
Yeah,
don't
let's do it again
have to
in a
worry
week
about
or
it.
two. We'll talk about some of these integrations that are coming this week. Keep an eye out on socials, gang. We're about to ramp up everything even more so. So, let's go. Hyperliquid, baby.
Beautiful. Thank you, Andy.
Thanks,
There
Sheriff.
he goes. It has been a wonderful time here at the table today. Thank you all for being here. We hit some nice numbers of the live viewers. I go live as often as I can, given obligations and availability. I'm always very happy and excited to have Andy on. He is one of the nicest and truly, actually, a very nice and good person that I can vouch for, and very excited about what's happening at HYPERLIQUID and Hyperliquid in general. But also like to wish all of the Pontards out there a very happy second birthday. And may we have 2 more years of great success. All right, folks. Until next time, this has been Chair's Table. It will be Chair's Table again. Thank you for taking your seat. And without further ado, I bid you adieu until the next time. And always remember to exclaim.
The #1 champion in the arena of dog.